Hey, what is going on, guys? DK. Back at you with another video here to bring the 9-game NBA main slate on Monday. Before I get into the video, if you guys are new to the channel, welcome. My name is DK. I make daily videos and live stream for NBA NFL slates on Draftkings. If you are unable to watch these videos, I also upload on Apple Podcasts. Link down below. It's called the DK DFS Show. If you guys could take an extra minute or two out of your day, leave a 5-star rating or review, would really help me out. If you're interested in signing up for premium content, I offer a few different packages on patreon.com. More info down below. The sponsor of the video is Thrive Fantasy. Thrive Fantasy is a player prop site where you can build out a lineup with player props and enter tournaments. So, for example, they have 20 player props. You either take the over or the under, and you pick 10 of the 20 options. The less probable the prop is to occur, the more you receive if you choose correctly. So, for example, like Joel Embiid is projected for 24.5 points. The over is more likely to happen, so you get less points if it does. But if it goes under, you get more points. So that's basically the idea. Do you want to play it safe and go for, the less points, or do you want to risk it and go for the more points, even though it's less likely? So that's kind of the game theory of it. I think it's fun. Nice, change of pace from DraftKings. So if you guys want to try out Thrive, make sure to sign up and use my code DKDFS. It's DKDFS, all one word, and you will get a 100% match up to $100. Okay, so before we get into players and their prices, guys, let's look back mine up here from tonight. So tonight, very tilted about that random blowout for Sacramento and Memphis. So annoying. It's like a 2-point spread or something and just a massive blowout. That's the stuff that really tilts me. I was talking about the Discord yesterday. I was like, there's finally no BS in Saturday slate, and I almost had a takedown. Like, there's no ejections, no random blowouts, no massive foul trouble, no injuries. I had none of that yesterday and almost had a takedown. And we go back to today's slate and massive blowout to really hurt my upside in this lineup. So, yeah, Fox played 3 second-half minutes, guys. It's not like he got pulled with like a couple minutes to go in the third quarter. He got pulled right away. Like, he was on pace for a good game and just didn't play because it was just a huge blowout. But Van Fleet here, Siakam, or C. McCulloch was good. Siakam was a lot down, but then again, a lot of stars in the slate were. There were not really any standout stars. Like, Tatum was really popular. He was a huge bust with Jaylen Brown back. The Lakers guys were all overpriced. Precious was fine. Tyus Jones was fine again on pace for big game blowout. Al Horford, was having a massive game. They closed with Enes Kanter. I go back to Horford because, of course, I had to after at 1% ownership. He was a massive letdown for me last slate, so I had to go back for him. He was smashing. They close with Enes Kanter, or Enes Freedom, I should say, is his now name. And then I used a low on Marcus Smart, who went for 40. That was pretty big. So right now I'm in the money. Probably will hold since the late game is not super popular. But, man, this lineup had a lot more upside if that Sacramento-Memphis game would have stayed competitive. Going over ownership this is the Hall of Famer. This is the winning lineup right now. Van Fleet, Bane, Brooks, Siakam, Triple J, Jones, Svi, and Cade Cunningham. So Svi 50%, Tyus Jones 90%, Triple J 50% owned. Fred Van Fleet, 60% owned. Let's see, what else? Melton was 70%. Terrence Davis was 40%. He got there in the blowout. LeBron got a little bit of ownership. AD got a little bit of ownership. But, yeah, kind of an ugly slate, guys. So that's it for the look back. Looking like a pretty solid night, even with the random massive blowouts. So hope you guys had a good night. Let's see if we can keep it going for this 9-game slate. So let's start off with Orlando and Philadelphia. Orlando, Cole Anthony is already ruled out for this game. We have Mo Bamba, questionable. Somewhat significant because that would open up value for a guy like Robin Lopez. So keep an eye on that. If Mo Bamba plays, I don't think I'd get to him. I'm scared. Targeting centers, foul-prone centers going up against Joel Embiid. So I don't really think I would want to risk with a guy like Bamba. Carter Jr. has been phenomenal. As long as this game is competitive, he should play over 30 minutes. So I do like Wendell Carter Jr. a good amount here. The only concern is this Magic team is awful. So if the game blows out, that's where he will fail. Jalen Suggs at 5'3", got benched down the stretch. He's been not great, but with Cole Anthony out, he's getting decent minutes, and he's stuffing the stat sheet. He's just not he's not been efficient, so he's fine. Franz Wagner, another player getting big minutes, should get over 30. I think he's a decent play, but the price is coming up on him. If you think the game blows out, you want to look to a guy like RJ Hampton, who the prices come down a bit on him. And then, yeah, Gary Harris started last game. He did play over 30 minutes. Like, you can use Gary Harris. He's just a super, super low usage guy, but he's only 3.5K. And lastly, I'll mention Robin Lopez at 3.3. So he started last game, played 31 minutes. If there's no Mo Bamba again, I think Robin Lopez is a decent value play going up against a big Joel Embiid. And sure, there's foul trouble risk, but at this price point, it doesn't, worry me as much, right? If Robin Lopez is more expensive, then it would factor into my decision more. I mean, we got to Philadelphia, so Joel Embiid, he should just be able to feast against Bamba or Robin Lopez, whoever they try to throw on him, he's just going to be able to feast. He had played 45 minutes last game. That was in double overtime, but 35 in regulation in his first game back. That's good to see. There's no limit on Joel Embiid. I think he's a decent spend up. Only risk is the blowout. A lot of the other 76ers are priced up from when Embiid is out, so I'd probably not get to anyone else. Denver and Miami, well, once again, we're waiting Nikola Jokic news. He's questionable. We'll have to see. It's a tough matchup. If Jokic plays, I like him at the top. If he does not play, then we have guys like Barton, Gordon, Monte Morris, and on the greens viable. They ran a pretty tight rotation. Also, Fancudo, Campazzo played big minutes off the bench. I think he would be a decent value play at only 3.7K, even in a tough matchup. So the whole starting five would be viable in a tough matchup, and then Campazzo off the bench. Moving on to Miami, so a couple of big pieces of news to keep an eye on. Jimmy Butler questionable, Tyler Hero questionable. If they're both in, there's not much that stands out to me on Miami, right? They're a team that is, the top four guys seem priced about right. But if Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero are out, then I really like Lowry. Then I really like Bam. And then we have to consider some value. Maybe a guy like Gabe Vincent, maybe Duncan Robinson comes viable. Max Strus played some decent minutes last game with no Hero. So there would be some pretty interesting plays here in Miami if one or both of those guys are out. Charlotte and Chicago. So LaMelo Ball, 10.4K. I think a competitive game, plays 35-plus minutes. A guy that can stuff the stat sheet. The price is fair. He's been a little bit up and down. He did get benched that 2 games ago when he threw that alley-oop to himself off the backboard. The secondary options here for Charlotte, Bridges, Hayward, fine options. Rozier at 7-1 has been playing pretty well of late. Now, he has a little bit of a lower floor than LaMelo. Won't do as much of the peripheral stats, but he's been pretty aggressive on the offensive end. So a little bit interested there in Rozier. And Hayward got benched down the stretch in overtime, a little bit frustrating, but he was only 6.3K, so it's like a decent price point. Mason Plumlee's still out. I would assume PJ Washington starts, but he's now 5.1K, also prone to foul trouble, which does worry me, especially against a guy like Vucevic. Probably won't get to anyone else here in Charlotte. Cody Martin minutes went down. He wasn't some foul trouble. I think he probably gets closer to 25-ish minutes. So, yeah, not much else here for Charlotte. Moving on to Chicago, kind of the same thing I said about Miami when they're fully healthy. Just no one really stands out. The guy that probably looks the best, assuming there's no limitations, would be Vucevic against this front court. So we'll have to keep an eye on the news. He only played 30 minutes there against Miami, but if he's going back to his 35-plus minutes, I think Vooch would be my favorite option. Lonzo's played well of late, but again, his price is now up. It is the ball narrative. If you want to play the ball narrative and play LaMelo versus Lonzo, you can, but I don't read too much into narratives. Caruso is priced about right. There's not much else here in Chicago. OKC in Houston, so SGA is back, which does hurt this lineup. SGA himself at 8K. It's a good matchup. He should play 35-plus minutes. Now, the floor is lower on SGA Gilgeous-Alexander. He's not handling the ball as much with Josh Giddey in there. So, but the price is fair at 8K. I like him for GPPs. Josh Giddey at 6.5 is just a secondary play. Floor is lower with SGA in the lineup. Lou Dort's going to play big minutes. He's probably going to play 35-plus minutes, more out there for his defense, but can knock down some shots. I think he's a fair value. Robinson Earl at 4.2 doesn't really stand out to me. And then the rotation behind that is just too much of a headache for me to try to go to anyone else. Moving on to Houston. So I used Christian Wood, Kevin Porter Jr. last game. That went really, really well. Both were absolute smashes at about 50% ownership. Wood, I played him last time against OKC. He only played 29 minutes, right? That's how I was tilting. 29 minutes in a competitive game because he shot so bad. Most of the time he's going to play 35-plus minutes if the game is competitive. I like the spot here, so I'm fine going back to Wood even though the price did come up. Kevin Porter Jr. at 6'8 with no Jalen Green. He's going to be, their top option at guard. He almost had a triple-double. He'll be handing the ball a decent amount. We should get, again, 35-plus minutes from him. So even though the price went up on Kevin Porter Jr., I still have some interest in him. Eric Gordon should start and play low 30s minutes. I think he's a fine play at 5'2". Jay Sean Tate at 4'8", if he can stay out of foul trouble. I think he plays mid-30s minutes. Garrison Matthews did start. He played big minutes. He's super reliant in the scoring, so you can use him. Just know he has a low floor still. So, if I have a feeling that Garrison Matthews is going to be chalky tomorrow, I am perfectly fine fading him because he is scoring dependent, and if he doesn't hit his shots, he can easily fail. I'm moving on to Pacers and the Timberwolves. So Sabonis had an awful game today against the Bucks. 1 of 8 shooting, only 22 minutes, was a blowout. But throwing the last game out the window, he's been been playing pretty well of late. He had blowout here where he was on pace for massive games, then a 41 and a 48 fantasy point game. So I do like Sabonis, only 8.4K. Minnesota, not super scared of them defensively, and I like Brogdon as well. He also had a bad game against the Bucks, but I don't really care. Throw the last game out the window. He's been pretty consistent, guy that can stuff the stat sheet. So I like Sabonis. I like Brogdon. Turner, LeVert, more in play for GPP. So probably need Miles Turner's defense against Karl-Anthony Towns. Seems like every 10 games or so, Miles Turner goes for the random 60 fantasy point game. So, and you can always, look to him for GBPs. And then Chris Duarte at 3.9K. Minutes been ticking up a little bit on him. I think we'll get 25 to 30. He is sub 4K, which makes him a decent value play in my opinion. And moving on to Minnesota. So Karl-Anthony Towns at 9.7K. More so in play for GBPs. Doesn't really stand out the price. Ant-Man, D'Lo are both fine options. Ant-Man was the massive chalk 2 slates ago. He was a huge bust. They both just seem priced about right. If a lot of people are going to Ant-Man, again, I would just rather go to D'Lo for much less ownership. There's still no Pat Beverly. Last game, they actually started Torian Prince at 3.2K. He played 31 minutes. Again, the game to go to double overtime. You can use Torian Prince. He's not a good point per minute guy. McDaniels at 3.4K. He's been getting a little bit more run of late, but he's been, kind of standing in the corner on the offensive end. Malik Beasley at 4.4. I do think it's more opportunities. However, he's still reliant on scoring. We saw the floor from him last game where he only went for 7 fantasy points. So not much else here from Minnesota. Cleveland and Dallas. Cleveland running pretty tight rotation. We'll start with Darius Garland at 7.7. I like him here. He's just playing massive minutes. He's going to play 35 to 40 minutes. He's a guy that's going to stuff the stat sheet. 11-7, 11 assists the last 3 games. Not scared of Dallas defensively. I think Garland's a pretty safe play. And I really like Jared Allen too. Just playing big minutes. Should play 35 to 38 minutes. A guy that's a good rebounder, good shot blocker. I like targeting bigs against Dallas, so I do like Jared Allen. Mobley's fine in his first game back. He played 33 minutes. It looks like there's no limitations on him. Rubio off the bench, more of a contrarian option. Just more confident in the minutes now for Garland. We have Dean Wade doubtful, Chetty Osman questionable, so I think Lauri Markkanen might get a slight minutes bump. At 5.6K, I think he's a pretty safe play. The minutes will be there. Doesn't really have insane upside, but I don't think he's going to kill you. Don't think I get to anyone else, though, on the Cleveland side. Moving on to Dallas, Luka Doncic at the top. I do like at 11.3. The prices come down on him a little bit. He should play 38 minutes. He's a guy who can stuff the stat sheet. And turning it on a bit of late, he started really slow this year. But, I think Luka is one of the better spin-ups in the slate. Porzingis, secondary play at 8.6K. Brunson, questionable. I would think he comes back because he did practice on Friday. And then one value play I want to mention here, Maxi Kleber off the bench has played 36 and 30 minutes last couple games. I think he's a pretty decent value play against a big front court. Now, if Brunson comes back, that would be one more body in the rotation that would maybe make the minutes go down a bit in Kleber. So if Brunson comes back, it makes Kleber a little bit riskier, but at 4K, I think he's worth a look for salary relief. Okay, so Washington and San Antonio is the next game here. They're basically fully healthy, so no one that really stands out to me. Dinwiddie's really been struggling late. Beal's really only someone to look to when Dinwiddie rest. Kuzma, you can play him. He has upside at times, so he still has a pretty low floor. As far as the centers go, I think I would rather roll the dice on Gafford. And he is very prone to foul trouble. He's gone for 36 fantasy points the last couple games, but chalk Gafford will never, ever work out. It never will. He had 8 blocks 2 games ago. If he's going to be pretty popular on the slate, I'm going to fade because he is, again, very, very prone to foul trouble. KCP will play 30 minutes. He's always playable, but he's pretty reliant on scoring. I don't think I'm going to get to anyone else on Washington. Moving on to San Antonio, DeJounte Murray has been phenomenal. He's playing massive minutes. The Spurs ran a really tight rotation last game, too, with Doug McDermott and Devin Vassell, which is good to see. So I do like DeJounte Murray a good amount here at 9.6. I also am pretty high on Derek White because, again, the minutes really condensed. They ran a really tight rotation, played 37 minutes in regulation for Derek White. So I think he makes for a pretty solid play at 5.9K. Keldon Johnson, a little up and down, but he's the wing that has the most upside. Again, 38 minutes is good to see. And then Jakob Poeltl, 5.7, I think is one of the safest plays on the slate. Good rebounder, good shot blocker, should play mid-30s minutes. I really like him at that price. Vassell, McDermott, both questionable. If they're both out, again, kind of solidifies the minutes for the main guys. And then I said, you would think Lonnie Walker would play more of those 2 guys out. Pop said, no. If you played Vassell last slate, you got popped. That's the smart thing to do. Couple wings out, play the wing off the bench more minutes. Let's play him less minutes. That's Greg Popovich for you. He wants to play Keita Bates-Diop for some reason, big minutes. Doesn't make any sense. So main 4 guys for San Antonio, in my opinion, all look pretty good. Portland and Utah, tough matchup here for the guards. Dame, CJ, more secondary options. The guy that does stand out is Nurkic. Finally got big minutes 2 games ago and had a massive ceiling game. Only played 24 minutes against Golden State small ball team. Still on for almost 30 fantasy points. This is a big front court, so you would think that Nurkic has to play more, maybe 30 plus minutes at only 6'3". Even though the spot's not the best, I do like some use off Nurkic. And then Norman Powell's out, so that should be more minutes for a guy like Nasir Little, who I would assume would start at only 3.5K. I think he makes for a decent value play. You probably get a little more minutes for a guy like Larry Nance at 3.6, who's fine. He can play some small ball 5. And then Robert Covington might pick up a couple extra minutes, only 3.8K. So there is some value here for Portland. Guys like Little, Nance, Covington should get more run here without Norman Powell. On the Utah side, Gobert doesn't really stand out to me. The guy that does stand out is Mitchell, who's really been struggling shooting of late. Finally had a decent shooting game against the Pelicans in a blowout one for 45 fantasy points. So up-tempo game here. I do like Donovan Mitchell, only 8-1. The rest of the Utah side, like Conley, Clarkson, Bogdanovich, are all secondary plays. Now, keep an eye on Royce O'Neal. If Royce O'Neal's out, that will open up value in guys like Ingles and Rudy Gay. Ingles started, was on pace for about 30 minutes. The game was a blowout. Rudy Gay played over 20 minutes on the bench. He's been pretty productive. So those two would make for good value plays if Royce O'Neal can't go. And finally, the Pelicans and the Clippers. So the Pelicans, they just can't play a competitive game. Jonas Valanciunas can't catch a break here with these competitors. So blowout, foul trouble, blowout, 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 23. The last competitive game he played without foul trouble, 38 minutes against the Clippers, 50 fantasy points. So I think the box score watchers will be scared off of Jonas Valanciunas. I am not scared off of him. I think he plays 35-ish minutes if the game stays close, and now the prices come down because of all the blowouts and foul trouble. I am pretty high in JV at only 8.4. I think Brandon Ingram at 7.5 looks decent. He will also play big minutes if the game stays close. Josh Hart is fine at 5.3. He's been stuffing the stat sheet and playing big minutes when the game is competitive. I will mention Herbert Jones at 3.4K, who has been playing around 30 minutes or so. Low usage guy, but he's super, super cheap in play for salary relief. And finally, the Clippers. So Paul George, 10.2, is fine. You know, he hasn't been playing as well of late. Reggie Jackson looked good in the early slate, and sure enough, he picked up 4 fouls in like 5 minutes. Only played 21 minutes, shot 0 of 5, and was a massive bust. But before that, 33, 53, 32 fantasy points. He's a guy that does have upside. A little bit of a lower floor, though, than some other guards in the slate. Avicii Zubac going up against a big front court might be asked to play a little bit more. I think he's a decent play in the mid-range. Bledsoe 5.2, you can always go to him. And then guys like Kennard, Mann, and Morris all look like the same to me. I expect all these guys to play somewhere around like 25 to 30, low 30s minutes for, that combo of Mann, Kennard, Morris. Like one of those guys probably gets their minutes cut a little bit. So they're all like the same group to me. They're all just like secondary options. Hartenstein, and Serge Ibaka, I'm probably going to stay away from the bigs off the bench. So yeah, guys, that's going to do it for the video. If you have been enjoying the content, again, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you do know to upload videos and go live. Tomorrow will be a travel day for me, so might not be able to YouTube live stream, but I will let you guys know. Thanks again, guys. Have a great night, and I'll see you all in the next video.